Yo, it's me, Dorothea Dix, back at it again and making history.
What did I do? Well, I basically changed the whole medical field. Not to brag or anything.
Let me take you back to the start. I was born to Joseph Dix and Mary Bicallo on April 4th, 1802. My father, Joseph, was extremely religious. He was an alcoholic, and he was abusive. My mother, Mary, was unstable. She suffered a mental illness. So I decided to go live with my grandmother in Boston, Massachusetts. I started teaching the poor and neglected. I became an educator at the age of 14. I opened up an all-girls school in 1819 and proceeded to teach for a while until I fell ill and had to stop teaching. It took a toll on my mental health. I decided to take a vacation. So I sailed all the way to England. I met reformers, Louis Pinel, a French physician who had campaigned for prison reform in the 18th century, and William Tuke, who founded a sanctuary for the mentally ill, which then had me thinking about what I could do to change what's in my country. I started to believe that in order for someone to get rid of or lighten their mental illness, they would have to be taken care of and not neglected. I had to return home to take care of my sick aunt. Then she died. I got a huge inheritance and decided to use it for my new interest: health reform. I volunteered at a Sunday school at East Cambridge Women's Prison. What I saw wasn't humane. Prisoners were beaten, neglected, and medically abused. Many in chains and many left in dark rooms to starve with their unconscious. Then I had an idea. I would travel the States. I would document everything I found wrong and unpleasing on hospitals and prisons. And I discovered so much, and that's the thesis. I often reported my findings to several politicians and pushed states to care for the unfortunate. I worked to pass federal legislation that would create a national asylum. Though through every reasoning I had, the bill did not pass. Although I did establish asylums in New Jersey, North Carolina, and Illinois. I went back to Europe to share my findings and speak my concerns for hospitals, prisons, and mental illness. 1861, the start of the Civil War. I completely dedicated myself to the Union cause. I was designated as the superintendent of Army nurses. My army of nurses were extremely successful and crucial in advancing the role of nurses in the war and in the medical field. After the war, I continued my studies and I reconstructed many hospitals in the United States and abroad. Overall, my accomplishments changed what you kids see today. When you walk into a hospital or a prison, you are protected. If you suffer from any mental illnesses, you're not left alone. You are cared for carefully, and thanks to the nurses and the doctors who have followed my teachings. And then I died.
Her revolutionary work was inspired by her own personal experiences and the growth of the progressive movement, which led her to take action on the treatment of the mentally ill and changing the medical field as we know it today. She traveled the States for 2 years, observing more than 900 asylums, hospitals, and prisons, and documenting these inhumane conditions.
Dorothea Dix was an author, teacher, and reformer. Her efforts on behalf of the mentally ill and prisoners helped create dozens of new institutions across the United States and in Europe and changed people's perception of these populations.
The stigma mental illness carries may still exist, but thanks to the revolutionaries of the likes of Dorothea Dix, the improvement of hospitals and the start of treatment centers and facilities provide patients the proper conditions and treatment.
The difficulties of achieving her goal. As usual, her gender. Even during the antebellum and progressive era, women were looked down upon. Male doctors openly expressed disdain for female nurses. Many thought the mentally ill simply lived with what they had and it was uncurable and they were born with it. Some of her accomplishments consisted of traveling through 13 European countries in 2 years and fighting for the mentally ill, establishing hospitals, schools, and today's health regulations and safety, and creating a whole butterfly effect that was positive on the medical world. Dorothea was
an educator,
a reformer,
A caregiver,
We know this is trash. Thank you.